True story. I was taking the quiver off my son's bow the other day, and it dawned on me that sucker is over 30 years old. It made me laugh enough that I called Drew and I said, hey, what a poor business model, you guys selling products that last over 30 years. He said, why don't you send it to me and I'll refinish it. I was like, man, you know how many bows this thing's been on? Because I don't. Change the hood, change the grippers. I mean, I've wood arrows, aluminum arrows, carbon arrows. That thing's seen it all. And I promise you, I probably would not buy a used bow for me. I'm kind of tough on stuff. So anyways, if you're looking for a quiver, I would tell you, if you want to spend your money once, better look at Selway Archery. You'll have that sucker a long time. Slide-ons, tie-ons, bolt-ons, they got all kinds. Give Drew a holler. Check them out. It'll last a heck of a long time. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Stickbow Chronicles, brought to you by the Black Widow Bow Company. What is going on, Balake?
I knew you. I could see the grin while the intro was playing, and I knew you had something up your sleeve, jackass. What's up, buddy?
Oh, not too much. You're looking better, man.
Yeah, I'm feeling better. I'm still feeling real tired, but other than that, I feel a lot better.
Good deal. Yeah, Brian Koelzer. I almost said his name wrong. It's Brian Koelzer this week.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed talking to Brian, and ever since he did his tour of his man cave on our Facebook group, I've been looking forward to talking to him. He had quite a few animals down in there. He's got some cats and some great looking mule deer, and done it all with a stickbow. Been a stickbow guy for a long time, and really enjoyed talking to him.
I always kind of like brag on or marvel at Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota as far as traditional archery. But, man, I'll tell you, Montana has got some deep, deep roots as far as traditional archery goes. It's a big state, but all the way across, man, they've all got their little niches from the Bitterroot Valley all the way out to where Brian's at and the southeast corner. Great history, and a stickbow guy from day one, eh?
Yeah, no, he's been doing it a long time, and he's been hell on mule deer. I guess he said he started in 2007, really focusing a lot of his efforts on mule deer, and killed quite a few of them in that time, and a lot of them super, super close, like sub 15 feet type close. And and he's vice president of the Montana Bowhunters Association.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know what the difference is. I think he said sitting vice president. I don't know what the difference is, but donates a lot of time to preserve and protect what we all love over there.
And he gets a chance to chase those cats around up there too, and talked about that a little bit. And that's something that fascinates me, is something that I've I see from afar through social media and things like that. And it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about bears. I was wanting to talk about bear hunting and didn't get around to it because Montana is kind of unique. Their spring season is pretty short, and no hound hunting, no baiting. Just we'll have to get them back on.
I wonder why that is.
What part of it?
It's a more open country, or
no. I mean, I'm probably gonna get spanked here, like talking, getting out of my lane. But one thing is, they got a lot of grizzlies, and that's an issue in northern Idaho with baiting and hounds. But it's been so long that it's been like that. I don't know. It just might be that tradition. I don't know.
Yeah.
But couple things real quick. Head over to ComptonTraditionalBowhunters.com. Drew and the Selway gang donated a really cool Compton quiver to raise money for Comptons, just out of the blue. Drew had it on the shelf and said, hey, why don't you guys raffle it or sell raffle tickets? So $5 a ticket. Go over to ComptonTraditionalBowhunters.com. Go to the store tab. Drop down, go to the other tab, and buy a $5 raffle ticket for a really, really sweet quiver and to help raise money for Compton.
Yeah, cool. Drew's a super cool guy, and thanks to him for doing that.
Yeah. What else do we have? We had a few other things. Oh, you were getting on me about not bringing coffee down there. It never made it out of my house. And I was just messaging with Zach from Backwood Grind Coffee last night, and this morning. My buddy, Mike Milfried, him and his wife going to head down to Mississippi in March. He's looking at finding a place to winter down there because he is retiring, and would be a place that I would go visit him. So I'm pretty stoked about that. So it's right down where Backwoods Grind Coffee Company is. So I said, hey, Zach, you mind helping out Mike? So, yeah, they're going to go down there and figure out some pig hunting.
There you go. Yeah, that's something fun to do in the spring. Come down and do some pig hunting. There's plenty of them to go around.
They also said, Mike said, well, there's nothing going on, but crawdad season's going to open up soon. So I don't know, man. It's like, that sounds like right up my alley, man.
Old mud bugs.
Yeah, hell yeah. That sounds like sitting in a boat, drinking a beer, and digging up the, crawdad traps.
I don't know how they do it. You're talking to the wrong dude. You got to go further south and east for that for me.
I've done it a little bit up here with little traps in the river. It's pretty cool. You know what? Yeah. So me and the kid, when I first started messing with him, I would take my snorkel and fins and get in the river. And I mean, it's kind of a funny story. That river's ripping. It's a big river, the dam, it's below the dam. And so the little dude, he was like 5, and I'd have him in his life vest, and I would dive down and roll rocks over and try to catch the crawdads, but I would have to let go of them. So he would only be there for a minute and zip back up, and I'd catch the crawdad, then I'd get back up, and I'd have to swim down river and get him. He looked like a can of Coke or something, Bob. And I'm not sure that was good parenting.
Looked like a bobber.
Oh, yeah, I'd have to swim down river, grab him, retrieve him, bring him back up.
The only thing I've ever done with them is you find those crawdad holes or whatever in the ditches or whatever, and tie a piece of bacon onto some fishing line, lower it down there, and they'll grab a hold of it, and you can yank them out of there. But no, they're good eating. You got to have a pile of them to get full, but pretty good eating.
I think you could go to jail for treating bacon like that.
Giving it to the crawdads.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But anyways, back to Backwoods Grind Coffee. SB Chronicles 10. Plug it in. 10% off. Check it out. I'm telling you, man, it is great coffee. They have samplers, like a 6-pack or a 3-pack sampler. Go on their website and check them out. Good stuff. SB Chronicles 10 gets you 10% off. So,
yeah, and I would love to speak very highly of it, but Rob didn't bring me any. So
I got an empty bag here. If you didn't see me during the podcast, I was actually sniffing it. That was kind of weird, but I like the smell of coffee.
Oh man, no, I've got a regular coffee pot coming, so I can try some of it. So I'm looking forward to it.
You gonna watch the game?
Yep, that's probably what I'm going to turn on. I don't even know what time it starts. It starts here pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like an hour or something.
Yeah. I'll probably turn that on whenever we're cutting her a little close on this week's episode.
Yeah.
That's all right though.
Yeah, this was a fun one because we kind of have been like going right straight out there. Whatever episode, I don't ever remember them. No offense, but they come and go so fast. We got the one out because we were going to be in Texas, and then when we got back, we had to get the other one out because it's an empty quiver episode, the first Wednesday of the week or the month, and then we got to get this one. So it'll be a breather, a little breather next week.
Well, I'm going back to work tomorrow, and I'm hitting the ground running because I've got to leave by 2 a.m. to head to Arkansas.
Okay, we've got to do an episode next week, so I'm just going to throw it out there.
Hey, I've got my laptop now.
Oh,
so I'm taking all that stuff with me, brother.
Nice. Right on. Well, I was going to talk about some arrows that I was building and some carbon limbs that I was getting, but the hell with that. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, we'll get that on the next one.
All right. That's all you got?
That's all I got, man.
All right. Enjoy. Brian Koelzer. Have a good week.
Thanks to the sponsors, Selway Archery, Footed Shaft, Kifaru International, Backwoods Grind Coffee, and, of course, Black Widow Bows.
What's with your microphone off there? Because I only see half of your face when you do that now.
Well, I don't have my little fancy little arm that comes over in front of me like you do yet. I'm still I've actually fixing to start working on getting this whole room set up, and yeah.
It's
so
kind of good because I know you're going to say something because you line up and half of your face is gone. I'm like, oh, he's going to speak.
It actually does work pretty good because I could tell every time I started leaning over to the mic.
Shut up.
You shut up.
Don't get an arm.
Oh, that's funny.
All right.
Oh, all right. Let's get out of here.
All right. Roger out. What's up, Brian?
Not much. How are you guys doing?
Oh, doing good, man. I was glad to talk to you. I know after your trophy room tour that you did on the page, I've actually been looking forward to talking to you because you got quite a few critters roaming around down there.
Yeah, the basement, it's definitely an active spot.
Well, in case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about there, go to the Stickbow Chronicles Facebook group page. You got to ask to be invited. And Brian we're all doing like little tours of your trophy room for the winter, and Brian did one and shamed a lot of us. Like, holy smokes.
Yeah, not too many people have seen that, and when I saw you guys were doing that, I was like, oh, what the heck, I like you guys and I like what you're all about, so I'll show some of my critters.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. You had quite a few cats down there, if I remember right. You killed a few cats,
Yep.
haven't you, Brian?
I have, yeah. Been chasing cats for almost 30 years now. I started in 1992 when I was 14 with my pops, and he's been running lions since the 70s. So that's kind of just a thing we've always done.
Wow. That must have been something. It wasn't real popular, was it? I mean, maybe it was regionally, but cat hunting is a big deal now. But man, I'll bet you guys got to tree some real pickles in the day.
Oh man, yeah. Back in the day when I first started doing it, even up until the early 2000s, I could go to some of the most accessible places right around home here, and I would be the only one looking. I mean, there was only a few people that did it, but here in the last, about 15 years, it's really blowing up, and we're really lucky. We got some real good chunks of private, and we got some real hellholes, public dirt too. We go to that nobody else wants to go to. Maybe we're just that dumb, but we can still find plenty of good cats pretty much about any time we want.
Now, what part of Montana are you in?
I'm in the southwest corner outside of Bozeman, about 20 miles.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of middle of nowhere.
How much has Bozeman changed in the last 5 to 10 years?
Los Angeles, it's different. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of the folks that I only thought existed like on TV shows all of a sudden live here now, and I question that. I don't go to that town but about every 2 months, and that's only if I absolutely have to. But I grew up in a little town of Three Forks, which is about 30 miles outside of Bozeman, and it's still a small town. Now I just live out in the country, and I'm pretty well just left alone and removed.
So you're in construction, right? You have your own company?
Yeah. My dad and myself and my best friend growing up from high school, we've got a masonry contracting business. So lots of rocks. I break rocks with a hammer for a living.
So when you show up to bid jobs, are you doing it bedazzled jeans and a flat bill now?
Oh yeah, for sure. And the widest bill that I can get. No, I look like a homeless guy all the time. Everything I have has holes, and I put dirt on my food just so it tastes right at night. And that's the story of my life.
Oh, that's funny. No, that cat hunting stuff, that's pretty cool stuff. And that's definitely a bucket list hunt of mine that I want to do in the next, 5-10 years. I want to go chase some dogs around, maybe find a cat somewhere.
Yeah, and sooner rather than later. It's people talk about mountain goat hunting and stuff being tough, and there's sometimes we end up with the mountain goats when we're chasing these things around. It can be about as physical as any hunt out there. And I have a lot of people who go with and then don't even end up making it to the tree. They tap out. Then it's up to me to go find dogs and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of a young man's game.
Do you?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Blake. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I feel like people who, and I don't know much about it at all. I don't know my ass from a hole in the ground whenever it comes to cats, but I feel like on the surface, people who don't dig down into it, that's another one of those things like bear baiting or something similar that on the surface it may look like it's super easy. You just follow the dogs and they run the cat up a tree and you shoot it. But I feel like there's a lot more to it than that. And I could see where, a day of chasing those dogs around in the damn mountains could turn into quite the day.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, we've had to skin cats with a broadhead before by the light of a flashlight, because you're so far back you can't get the thing out, and it's 10 o'clock at night. And I've ended up under a stump once with a dead mountain lion and 2 hound dogs in a raging blizzard, covered up in snow, and was there for about 4 or 5 hours till I was able to end up getting out. I mean, there's been a lot of crazy stuff, and shooting the cat is not really the climax of the hunt. I mean, it's the whole adventure of going out and busting your ass and finding the tracks and going on the chase, however long or short it may be, and watching the dogs work. And shooting the cat, it's fun. It's really cool. It's good. But there is a heck of a lot more that goes into it than just, walking behind a dog and thumping one.
My buddy Gus Thorson, he runs hounds on the Salmon River breaks. And that's some really rugged, nasty stuff. And he made the comment one time. He's like, these dogs will take you places that you never would have gone without them.
Oh, amen. Yep. That's for darn sure.
So if you had, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I imagine those dogs. I mean, if once they get on a cat, it's pretty much you're pretty well committed to going wherever they go at that point.
100%. Oh, yeah. I got waterproof matches and food and water in my pack. As soon as you let them off that leash, you're going wherever they go. And once they get to a tree and they got a cat in a tree, they're not just turning around and leaving. They know to stay there until you get there. It might be a few hours, it might be the next day, but they're staying. So it's 100% commitment to treat those dogs right and get after them.
You guys had to get pretty wolf savvy over there yet?
Yeah, the wolves have really messed up the cat hunting here. It used to be real predictable, cats moving along the faces and winter ranges, and now cats stay really high, and they'll sneak down in one spot, try to make a kill, and then they're heading right back up to the mountain goat rocks, trying to stay away from the darn wolves. And the wolves are following the cats now, because the cats are a more successful predator, and the wolves have figured out to let the cats do the work and then chase them off a kill. So these cats are having to work even harder to make a go of it. And the wolves are looking for an easy meal, and hell, you can't even turn out part of the time. See, if you got fresh wolf tracks around, you turn out hound dogs, the wolves will come eat your hound dogs, which, knock on wood, we haven't had happen yet, but there have been plenty of folks that have.
Yeah, I guess that was going to be my next question is if I would imagine that those wolves would prey on those hound dogs if they're in the area, got a cat treat or whatever. That's just like a dinner bell to them, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, barking hound dog is a dinner bell. Those wolves eat foxes and coyotes like crazy, and a hound dog is easy pickings for a wolf. And the pictures I've seen of the hound dogs that have got caught, I mean, by the time you get to the tree, it's pretty much just a dog head and a spine is the only thing left. pretty gruesome.
You know, the guys around here that I know that have run cats, and even down in salmon, all the Idaho guys, I'll say, they've gotten pretty good at working around the wolves. So, they know where the packs are at, and they might cut a track, and they're gonna walk the track way further than what they normally would have. So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of guys have gotten good at it. However, a couple of the dudes up north of me that are seasoned 20-year guys that are good houndsmen, they lost their whole pack last year, right in the beginning of the season.
No.
And they're good at it. I mean, there's probably nobody better around at, and they just, the wolves came in and took out their whole pack, man. That's just got to be gut wrenching. I mean, I got to imagine the dogs get to be your friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of them do. Some lion dogs, not so much. Some of them are just working critters. But yeah, geez, our best hound dog we ever had was one when I was just getting out of high school, and it slept with my dad at night. And during the day, it slept on the couch with a house cat. But you put that old girl out on a mountain lion track, the mountain lion didn't have a chance. She'd have them. It didn't matter. Dry ground, warm weather, deep snow. They were in trouble. And yeah, she was just a house pet.
Well, how long you been flinging sticks?
Well, my first bow was made for me when I was born. And to back up even farther, I was conceived at a Montana Bowhunter Association convention. So, but archery is kind of been in the blood, to say the least. But yeah, my first bow was made for me by Bob Savage.
I met
here
Bob
in Bozeman.
Yeah, I've met him.
You've met Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great dude, fascinating guy. But he made me a little bow, like 15 pounds at like 15 inches, something like that. And when I was about 5, my dad gave me that bow, let me start shooting it with some little like blunt tips arrows, and I've been packing a stick bow ever since then.
No kidding.
So you've been a stickbow guy right from the get-go, I would imagine.
Right from the get-go, yep. I've never shot anything besides recurves and longbows.
What kind of bow are you shooting right now?
For a long time, I was a Schaefer Silvertip recurve guy. And then in 2016, I started having some elbow issues from beating on rocks with a hammer for all these years. And I had to have a bunch of surgery, some bionic parts in my elbow, and I lost feeling in part of my hand. And I had a hell of a time shooting a recurve anymore because I couldn't feel how it was sitting in my hand. And I started shooting a longbow. And because I had to grip it with more of the palm of my hand, and I could feel what was going on again. So I've kind of been a longbow guy here, and I've got a Yellowstone custom longbow from Rich Wormington in Wyoming. And then I've got a Hurst longbow from Colton Hurst here in Montana as well. So those have been what I've been flinging arrows out of here for the last few years.
Colton's a good dude, man. I met him years ago over in Libby. I think he was, in Libby, and my buddy, you know who Rich Yort is?
I know of him. I'm sure I've met him, but we're not pals or bosom buddies or anything.
So Rich named Colton the hair farmer. So that's how I know.
Nice.
That's how I know Colton is the hair farmer. But he does a good job, man. He does a good job on his bows.
He does a really good job on his bows. That poor guy, I love him to death. But when the first time I met him, man, he was ripped in that long hair, and he just looked like. And I was emceeing a deal, and I ended up teasing him. And when somebody won his bow or something, I told him, go find the guy that looks like Fabio. And I don't think he took that really good. I'm only telling it on here because I love him to death. I don't think I've apologized yet. So I'm sorry, Colton.
That's funny. Well, he was running with another dude who I think was from North Dakota. It was over at the Libby shoot. Gosh, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but I had this dude was a farmer over there, big corn-fed kid, huge guy. And I had just gotten my Toki Chinook, 58-inch Chinook. And So everybody's oohing and ahhing over it, and this guy says, "Can I shoot that?" And I gave it to him, and I was scared to death. I'm not sure how far he drew that, but it was like it was like 31 inches. I'm like, oh my god, the string's gonna fly off that thing. But it was a testament to the bow that day.
Beautiful.
But yeah, that's Colton's funny. A good dude.
Yeah, he is.
Have you ever made it over to that Libby shoot?
I haven't. Unfortunately, it's always been about when I've been in Canada bear hunting every spring.
Yeah, that is.
It falls right in that window, so I've never made it up to that one. But sounds like a heck of a good time. You know, Terry and Al Kelly, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. They're salt of the earth people.
Yeah. I'm always threatening to come up there and do it one of these years. Yeah, I love them to death. They're great folks. But I need to do it.
There was a couple of younger guys some years ago that just got into shooting stick bows, and they were up from up north of you, but they came down and just lit it up. You know, when you shoot your stick bow your whole life and you see these guys pick it up, and within a year they're shooting just lights out, man. Those guys were awesome. Oh.
What were their names? Do you remember?
Gosh dang, I can't remember. I can't. You know, as I was saying it, I thought their name was on the tip of my tongue, but no, that's a great shoot. Great bunch of people. Yeah, you should really try to make it over sometime.
How many people end up at that thing?
150 to 200, I would say.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty darn good size then.
The setting is awesome. That Fawn Creek, it's up the Fisher River. And it's beautiful. It's all parked out. Great big yellow pines and tamaracks. It's just an awesome spot.
Gosh, yeah, I need to do it.
Yeah.
Well, you do quite a bit of mule deer hunting as well, don't you, Brian? That's kind of what I'm fascinated with for the time being, anyway. Looks like you got some real good bucks down there, don't you?
Yeah, those are all Wyoming deer. Growing up here in Southwest Montana, I had the whitetail hunting so good. I grew up right at the headwaters of the Missouri River, so I had 3 major river bottoms literally 10 minutes from home for me. And I just whitetail hunted my whole life up until 2007. And I ended up going down to Wyoming for the first time and doing the spot and stock mule deer, and I fell in love with it. It's turned into my favorite thing. So I still do my whitetail hunting around home here. I can't give that up in Montana, but I go to Wyoming every year and spot and stock the mule deer. So I get the best of both worlds.
You do mainly high country stuff, or is it more of kind of the more open desert type country?
It's the open desert stuff. Like, you wonder how anything can even survive out there, The deer densities aren't real high, but there's always a good one hiding somewhere. If you can just find them and figure out what they're doing and get them put to bed. The conditions are usually just horrible in that desert country too. It's usually super hot and windy, which is perfect for spot and stock mule deer hunting. So usually if I find a good buck and can just be patient and spend some days with him, he's going to lay down at a spot where I can sneak up and try to get him shot, preferably when he's sleeping. That's my favorite thing.
So you're doing, that's early season, like an August hunt, or?
It's 1st of September every year, regardless of day of the week, is when Wyoming's bow season opens. So I'm down there usually right as close as I can to the 1st of September to take advantage of the hottest, windiest conditions I can get and see what I can do with them.
Yeah, it's funny. You talk to compound guys sometimes, and this is myself included, back when I was shooting a compound, and I absolutely hated the wind. Like, it was just such a pain in the butt to shoot in it. But now, for getting that sub 10, 15 yards on those days, whenever the wind's blowing 25 miles an hour, it's like, you almost look forward to hunting in conditions like that. And it's funny how things change, but.
Oh yeah, man! I watch the forecast, and if I'm back home working something, I'll keep an eye on the forecast. And if there's a stretch of days where it's going to be super windy down there, even if it's like maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll give up like the next long weekend just to get down there and hunt the windy days, because those are the days you kill deer with a stick bow.
Yeah, and do you find that that also helps just kind of suck those big bucks up and make them more, almost more killable because they're more
Oh,
likely to hole up and just stay in one spot all day long?
100%. Yeah, they don't want to be out in that stuff any worse than we do. So as long as you can find one pretty close to daylight and watch where he goes to bed, he'll tuck in deep into some nasty little hole. And when things are right, man, you can sneak right up on them. I've shot a few of them at. I shot one at 10 feet, another one just a little over 10 feet, a few more at like 5 yards. But I mean, they tuck down so tight to get out of that stuff. As long as you can bear it, and you get a real good chance of just getting right on top of them. It's just that making that shot that close is a little bit tricky. But man, it gets my heart pumping.
Oh yeah, I would guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's been two or three of them now that have been laying on their sides, sleeping just like an old dog too, thinking they're just perfectly safe. And I've leaned over and just shot them while they're sawing logs.
What's your arrow setup?
I'm shooting, oh gosh, I've been through a lot of them over the years. I used to be a wood arrow guy, and I did aluminums for a long time too, but I had to hop on the carbon bandwagon here. Oh gosh, whatever it was, 15 years ago probably. And I'm shooting the Easton Axis traditionals right now with a 150 grain VPA head on them. I put the weight tubes in them just to get a little bit more oomph behind my shot. So you can, I know some people aren't into that, not trad enough, but I sure like it.
Oh, that's funny you mentioned the arrow tubes because I haven't thought of them in years, and I was digging deep into my man cave today, and I came across some weight tubes, and I seriously haven't thought of that in probably 5 or 6 years. It's funny you bring it up.
Oh, yeah, Three Rivers Archery has those weight tubes that even fit in, you can get them for the size, even those micro diameter Eastons I'm shooting, and you can get them in like 3 grains an inch or 5 grains an inch or 8 grains, whatever. And so there's options, and man, it helps. I mean, shooting the same arrow, one tubed and one not, man, big difference.
Yeah.
Do you find that weight tube affects the spine quite a bit? Do you see that when you add that weight tube to the arrow that it stiffens it up a little bit?
No, I haven't had that. I'm just putting the 3 grain per inch ones in mine, so I haven't tried the 5 or 8, but the three don't change the spine at all. My arrows fly, if anything, better with the weight tubes, I think.
When I was using them, now that I remember, when I was stump shooting, that weight tube would knock the knock off once in a while, knock the knock out. How do you keep from having that weight tube moving around?
Oh, sorry, I was getting a beep here. Are you guys going to be able to edit that out?
Oh, I didn't hear nothing.
We didn't hear anything, Brian.
Okay, my bad. Can you repeat the question? That was throwing me off there.
Oh yeah, no worries. So when I was shooting with the weight tubes, and when I'd stump shoot and hit something hard, that weight tube would knock the knock back out. How do you keep that from happening?
I don't. I just carry actually extra knocks with me. Yeah, I did that twice when I was mule deer hunting this year, and I was stump shooting out in the sagebrush, just walking around and blow the damn knock out, and all of a sudden I'm out of judo arrow. So yeah, I just got a pile of knocks I keep in the truck, and just for that reason.
And then skipping around here a little bit, that VPA, is that a 3-blade that you're shooting?
It's a 3-blade, yeah, the non-vented 150 grain 3-blade.
Yeah. Nice.
And what kind of poundage and stuff are you shooting on your bows?
Most of them are, right now my longbows are 55 and 58 that I'm shooting, but most of my hunting career has been with my 65-pound Schaefer silver tip. But I've got a couple bows as well that are down about 50 pounds that I'll shoot when the weather starts to get cold and nasty too, just to take it easy on my shoulder.
So your arrows are probably weighing what, like 700 grains or more with those weight tubes?
No, closer to 600. So I'm shooting 500 spines. It's weird. I've tried when you chart the arrows to the bow and everything that's supposed to match up. I haven't had real good luck. I've kind of had to match what the bow likes, even though it might not be chart specific. So I've ended up with 500 spine arrows at 29 and a quarter what I shoot, and then these weight tubes, they fly great. They chart wise, they're not supposed to, but I mean, even paper tuning them, man, they just make pencil holes. So I can't argue with results. So just a lighter setup than other folks, but it's also nice to not be lobbing a rainbow too. I can shoot a pretty flat trajectory out there a bit.
Yeah, that's very, very similar to what I like to shoot anyway. I shoot, anywhere between 55 and 60 and, anywhere between a 550 grain arrow to 600, and seems like a good happy medium of heavy weight and, trajectory. Because, you gotta poke out there and make a longer shot. If your arrows fall off the face of the earth after 25 or 30 yards, it makes it tough.
Yeah, it does make it really tough. And, I get pass-throughs on pretty much everything I shoot, so I don't feel like I'm too off on this combination. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, it's funny. Me and Rob were actually talking about that earlier. He was asking me what setup I was shooting out of my bow that I've been shooting, and I shoot a full length 400 out of it with 275 up front, which should be super, super weak according to pretty much any chart known to man. But as Rob knows, I get pretty wound up in tuning with bear shafts and everything else, and you can't argue with the results. I've had a bunch of people tell me there's no way that should be flying out of that bow, and I'll just send them a slow-mo.
Yeah, like me an hour ago. I'm like, what? No, you're mistaken.
It doesn't make any sense, but the results don't lie, and it's just strange. Some bows are just weird, and that one I've been shooting, it's just weird because I can swap to a different bow, almost identical specs, and have to drop a spine or two to get it to work. And for whatever reason, just however the limbs react and how I shoot that bow, it takes a super weak arrow. So I thought it'd be important
that's
to
just
touch
it.
on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, for certainly. And, other people have asked me about that too. I mean, you just got to find what makes the bow happy. The charts only take you so far. Like I got a little 50-pound Schaefer recurve that, gosh, I had my dad got it for me. It was the first quote unquote real bow I ever got when I was in 1993. And Paul made the limbs, and then he got killed, and Dave finished the riser off and got it to me. And that little bow, it doesn't like the 500 arrows. It wants 400s that are longer and heavier. For some reason, I don't know why, but that's just what that little bow likes. So it's got its own little set of arrows.
Yeah, and I mean it's funny we kind of talk about this stuff, and it's funny if you talk to somebody who hunts back east mainly, or hunts whitetails, and that's pretty much it. You'll hear a lot of recommendations for 40 to 45 pound bows and 600 grain arrows, and which there's nothing wrong with that. But I see a lot of people chime in on whether it be forums or Facebook groups or whatever. And, most of the Western guys that you talk to are kind of on the other end of that spectrum, that 50 to 55 plus range, and more of a, moderately weighted arrow. And I think that people, when they're asking questions on the internet and stuff, probably need to keep in mind who's answering them, because there's nothing wrong with that 40 to 45 pound limb. And I know a lot of people kill a lot of stuff with lighter weight setups, but that's pretty controlled scenarios, 20, 25 yards and in. You're not as worried about your trajectory and things like that. But it just seems like every person that we talk to that hunts out west and may have to take a longer shot every now and then, and are doing more of the spot and stalk type stuff, they kind of find that happy home in that 50 to 60 pound range and 500 to 600 grain range.
Yeah, I would agree with you there too. I have a vision in my head of shooting a 700 grain arrow out of a 45 pound bow, and letting the arrow go and setting the bow down and running towards the target, then grabbing it out of the air before it hits the target,
Believe it or not, there's a lot of people who do it.
I know there is, and I read about it, but that's just what I have in my mind. I've never shot an arrow that heavy out of a bow that light. That'd be like lobbing a fish arrow out there out of one of our bows, like Monty Browning style. But no, and it works for him, so good.
You know, Brian, you and I had some similar experiences when forums started popping up with Stickbow, was it Leatherwall and Trad Gang and all that stuff. And being out west and my whole, basically my whole bow hunting career being out west and kind of being isolated because there just wasn't, you had traditional bow hunter magazine showing up, once every 2 months, but that was it. So, I started out with a 65 or a 70 pound recurve, and then once the forum started showing up and you started like communicating with people across the country and you're like, 45 pounds, really? Like, what
oh yeah,
with that?
That's like,
and so nothing against them, but at first it was like, dude, what,
you hunting ground dogs? Ground dogs, or what are you doing there, man?
You're not kidding, and I mean, Rob, you and I aren't that far apart here. We know a lot of the same people. I mean, when I was a little kid growing up with my pops, he was in, Paul Schaefer was one of his good friends. The Wenzels were around, Lee Poole, Dave Gustafson, all these guys that are these big strapping, powerful dudes, and every one of them shot a 70 to 80 pound bow.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, heck, I thought I was just a weenie when I was still only shooting like 45 when I was, in 7th grade or something like that. Like, man, I really got to up my game to get on board with these guys. And you're right, you get on these forums and everybody's got like a 39 pound bow and they're out shooting. I was like, whoa, hold on. What the heck is this?
So I'm sure somebody's going to take offense to it, but I mean, like, somebody was selling a bow and his handle was Big Ed and it was a 45 pound bow. I was like, what? like stuff my head scratching, like what are we doing here?
It's like, well, maybe somebody's wife or kid needs a present or something. You
said it.
No, and here's just the converse of that. So on the Schaefer Silvertip Facebook page the other day, I've got a set of 69 pound limbs I've had since I don't even know when, but a long time, and I'm not shooting 69 pounds anymore.
Are they original?
No, David made them, but it wasn't long after Dave started. So we're talking maybe 95, 96, something like that. Mm-hmm. When, of course, I'm like 17 years old and I was like, geez, I need to get with the big boys here. I need some 69 pound limbs. And that never really worked for me. But geez, I put them on for sale if somebody was interested. And I had one guy kind of interested. Other than that, it's been crickets. And usually something lasts about 3 minutes on that page and it's sold, but nobody wants a set of 69 pound limbs.
No, me included.
Well, I think it's important to, so if somebody's listening that's thinking about picking up a stick bow, don't start with a 55 or 60 pound set of limbs.
No, by no means.
Start out with something 30, 35 pounds and get a good foundation built and then work your way up to where you feel comfortable. But I do think there's a happy middle ground between 70 and 40 that is pretty solid place to be.
I'll jump out there and say, no, I mean, we were knuckleheads, and I'll say that, not throwing Brian in there, but
no, throw me in there. I'm a knucklehead.
Yeah. I mean, that's just what you did. Asbel, Bighorn bows. I mean, they were cranking out 70 pounders. And that's what you did. Now I just ordered a set of limbs that are 53. So I'm slowly declining.
Well, I've got a 45 pound rig in here that's, kind of a 3D rig for me. And I've been trying to get rid of that thing for a while. It's a big 66-inch bow. And everybody keeps telling me that the damn limbs are too heavy for them. And I'm like, come on, guys. It's 45 pounds.
It's 45 pounds. Yeah. No, I've been having a little bit of trouble with my elbows here again lately, and I'm shooting a 51 pound bear's paw takedown longbow right now, just to give my elbows a little bit of break for league and stuff. So, and I've killed plenty of stuff with that little bow too. I mean, a guy doesn't have to shoot a ton of weight to kill stuff. You just got to get a little closer.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what bear's paw. What's his name?
Neil Jacobson.
Is he still building bows?
I haven't talked to Neil in a few years. I think he's still building bows, kind of just he's not building up anything for stock. He'll build one if somebody asks him to build one, but he's not, going full bore anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tyler
and I
Phil
think
shoots
that's
his
the
bows.
case. Yeah, there's plenty of people that do between him and Windauer and those are guys that have been around for a long time, and there's a lot of folks who got their bows. They're good bows.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Montana, you're going to be at the Western States Rendezvous?
That is my plan.
That is my plan
That
as
is
well.
Yep, I'm hoping it works out. Actually, one of my fun side job is playing in a band, and
What?
yeah, that's my other
What kind
thing.
of music?
That gritty rock and roll / country kind of red dirt stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yep, I cut my teeth on Guns N' Roses, so I'm a little bit more loud and obnoxious than most.
Yeah, okay. I won't.
But anyways, they've asked us to play tunes at that, and we're trying to get the schedule arranged. Hell, it's this stupid COVID garbage. We haven't got to play tunes, but a couple times this year, so we're hoping that we can make that happen on Saturday night. But I still got to get confirmation from all the boys that it'll work.
Well, I'll try to keep it under control, but karaoke, Guns N' Roses. I am Axl Rose after about half a dozen beers.
Oh my gosh, I am ready for that. I was going to send you a picture. I was in Sandpoint a couple years ago, passing through on my way to Washington for one of my little cousin's weddings, and we ended up staying in Sandpoint. And there's a piano out on the corner somewhere downtown.
Yep.
And my wife was taking pictures of me because I was ripping freaking November Rain and Bon Jovi for everybody coming by who may or may not have wanted to hear it, but I was playing it for him anyways because I'd had a couple beers and I didn't care.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's funny. You'll have Rob with a wig on.
Perfect.
Well,
gosh, I am so ready for that. I'm dressing up as Slash then, so we're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm not as skinny as Axl used to be.
Well, Axl looks like the granny off Goonies right now, so it's.
I know it. Oh, that's funny. Sandpoint can be a fun town. Sandpoint can be a really fun town. Can be.
Well, I've only been through a few times, and I've enjoyed it whenever I've been there. So it's a cool spot for sure.
A little more business. Western States Rendezvous, Montana. You are an officer in the MBA, aren't you? Montana.
I am. I'm sitting vice president for the Montana Bowhunters Association right now. Yep.
My hat's off to you because that can take a lot of your time up.
Oh my gosh, it certainly has been here lately too. There's a lot of the year that you're just kind of coasting and everything's good, but when you get to legislative sessions and junk blowing around like we got right now, man, it turns into a lot of work.
What's the main thing you've got that y'all are dealing with currently?
Crossbows. Crossbows is the thing. Unfortunately, about legislative sessions run every 2 years, and since the 1980s, there's only been one legislative session that there hasn't been a crossbow bill introduced. Trying to get those things interjected into our archery seasons here, and this year is no different. But unfortunately, this go around, the bill, which was heard a week or so ago, made it out of the first committee hearing on party lines too, which was kind of irritating. But it's going to the big Senate floor this coming Tuesday, like in 3 days. Hopefully it will die there. But yeah, we're working hard to try to get this thing squished and preserve our seasons just how they are.
I hate to hear anything gets past party, moves forward on a party line vote because, that's a bunch of horse crap. But what party voted for it?
Right now, the Republicans are pushing this hard, and it's unfortunate. I don't know why something like this would ever even go to party lines. It's not a political issue. I don't understand why it is. but that's the way it went out. And it did that 2 years ago as well. And then strangely enough, on the big Senate floor, some of those who voted for it in the initial committee flip-flopped and voted against it. So I don't understand politics. I don't really want to. I want to just kind of get left alone and go hunting, but somehow here I am up to my neck in them.
Well, I have great disdain for politicians myself.
It's I've met some awful good ones. Yeah, I've met some awful good ones, but there's a few that I certainly don't care for as well.
Yeah. I actually watched a friend of mine, a very, very good friend of mine, became a legislator, and I mean, the families did stuff together for decades, and I watched the change in that person to I don't even talk to him anymore. That's
unfortunate.
Yeah, the poison that is in politics. Yeah, it's irritating.
It is, and it kind of goes all across the lines too, and especially when you take something like bow hunting that, you know, is my passion and my life and my love, and you interject politics into it, man, it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth when you have to deal with too much of it.
Well, let me ask this: what is the argument in favor of crossbows? So, what ground do they have to stand on as far as getting them into a bow season?
So what they did for years was just try to ram into being fully included into archery season with no restrictions, but that didn't work for so long. They figured out a formula that they start chipping away at all these seasons, and they start with making it legal for disabled people to use a crossbow. And as soon as they get that, then they go after the elderly, saying anybody 65 or older or 70 and older, whatever, can use a crossbow. Then they go to women and children and saying, oh, they're not tough enough to pull a real hunting bow, blah, 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 and get them into the sport earlier. And once they get those 3 hurdles crossed, then they push for full inclusion. And right now we've got a document that's just fantastic that's getting put together. 42 states right now have crossbows somehow legal in their archery season in some fashion. And of those 42 states, it's 20 or 21, I can't remember what it is now, started as just being only for people with disabilities and have been pushed through into full inclusion. So you can see where the method is. And that's what we got going right now, is we're trying to get it in for just folks with disabilities, just to try to get their toe in the door.
You know, one of the arguments that makes me rip my hair out, that's why my hair is so short, is people say, like, oh, if you're against the crossbow, you're dividing hunters. Well, my point in a discussion here recently with Montana, they said, well, you know, you're just dividing hunters into groups and pitting one group against the other. And it's like, time out, man. There is no crossbow group in Montana. You are not excluding anybody. If there is a season, then there is a crossbow group. But until then, you're not separating anybody. You're not dividing any groups of hunters because they don't exist.
No, and that's absolutely right. Our seasons are incredible in Montana here, and that's what we're so worried about losing. You've got over 300 days a year in Montana that you can hunt with a crossbow right now. They're not allowed in the 6-week window of our archery season, and that's what we're trying to keep them out of. But in that archery season, we have 24 weapons restricted areas in Montana that are sizable chunks of ground that allow archery, muzzleloader, shotgun, crossbow, handgun, anything that's short range. So there's 24 different good places to hunt with a crossbow right now in archery season if you want to, and then the whole rest of the year is a general season. So it's not, you can't say that crossbows aren't allowed in Montana. We just don't want them in our little window when the elk and antelope and deer are, you know, basically the most vulnerable. And that's what we're trying. And the Montana Bowhunters Association and the Fish and Game also put together a deal called the Permit to Modify Archery equipment, the PTMAE, back about 20 years ago. and it allows people with disabilities in a doctor's note, a valid doctor's note, to install a draw lock or something on a regular bow so they can still participate in archery without having to use a crossbow. And it stood up against numerous court battles for, the Disabilities Act and all that. So we've got stuff in place to help disabled people. We're actively helping 3 different disabled people right now get their bows and everything tuned up so they can be hunting this coming year. So you can't say we're discriminating. We're working awfully hard to do exactly the opposite.
Man, that's pretty awesome. You had brought that up before when we had talked. And you guys ever do a little video documentary, when you're helping set these people's bows up? Because that might be really good to get out there.
We did just a little bit before, but honestly, it was never a thing. It was always just something we did without, like trying to use it as like propaganda or a tool or anything. But now it's like, oh, geez, we kind of need to be documenting this to show, hey, this is what we are doing. This is what we can do. So, yes, everything is getting much more documented now as the fight seems to creep on.
Yeah.
That's sad now, isn't it? It's gotten to a point where, not just in this discussion, but others that you can't do anything nice anymore without feeling like you have to document it for one reason or another. And it's unfortunate because I think there's a lot of people out here who would be doing it regardless of motive behind it. But, because of the way things are now, everything's got to be online or on social media for it to be relevant in discussion.
Exactly. And, most of these guys that are helping out with it, they're not asking for anything. I mean, everybody's a volunteer doing this, putting in their time. It was never intended to be put out on Facebook or something and say, look what we're doing. It's just out of the goodness of these people's hearts saying we want to keep these folks hunting while keeping crossbows out of our season. But it's just turned into the point where it has to get blowing up on social media and stuff, which, gosh, some things just, God, just doing laundry in public is kind of what it feels like sometimes.
Hey, let's talk about some good stuff at NBA.
Let's do that. Yeah, I'm burned on the others.
Yeah, so this one, again, I mentioned my friend Rich Yort and Al Kelly. I know those guys. They're involved in the youth camp that you guys do.
Yeah.
That is knocking it out of the park. Talk a little bit about that.
So a few years ago, and I haven't been overly involved with it because it's been more up in that north part of the state there. But it's basically a camp, kind of a learning to hunt and outdoorsy camp for, archery kids. And, there's been, 20 kids a year, something like that, who go out for a handful of days at a time, stay in tents, learn how to elk bugle, go sneaking around. And there's a bunch of Montana Boner Association, board members and just general members who come help with these kids. And it's just a ton of fun. And then they usually do it on a piece of private ground somewhere, and then they'll go burn a half a day, like cleaning up, old fence or something for the landowner for saying a thank you. So it's a real cool program, and it really caught on, man. It went from like 15 kids the first year to like a waiting list the next year. But of course, COVID's got that buggered up too. So, be nice when we can get back to it.
Yeah. So Rich was telling me, he's talking about practicing elk calling, shooting, shot placement on some 3D targets. And then they went as far as to simulate packing out. So the kids had some packs, and he said it was a pretty tough pack. And so, yeah, I mean, that's knocking it out of the park. Hats off to you guys.
Yeah, it's fun. We got some money set aside for it every year, and we got some real generous folks that, donate, the cost of a kid for camp every year. So we can usually get cost deferred pretty much, so it doesn't, end up being too much of a stretch, even for, single parents, anything that are wanting to get their kids into something but not having the money. So it's a cool program. I mean, it's as lifelike as it, can be. And then these kids go hunting, later on, and they've been doing it for like 4 years now. So some of these kids have gone hunting, and there's been a few deer shot. I think one kid even got an elk. So And of course the pictures always come back, and yeah, it's a good thing.
For sure.
No, I know there's, I mean, a lot of parents who maybe didn't have the opportunity to go hunting or have interest in it or want that option for their kids. And, you know, I wish there was more things like that for kids growing up. You know, my cousins, for example, you know, they lost their dad at a young age. And if we have, you know, I've tried to take them under my wing as best I can and take them when I can. But if there was some kind of program like that for kids, just to be able to learn from a young age where they may not have the opportunity elsewhere, that's pretty stinking awesome.
It really is just getting the exposure. You know, like you said, most kids don't have it, or the parents, you know, just don't have access to get them exposed to it. And this is a way to do that. And it's good to see the excitement in those kids and stuff after they do something like that. So makes you feel like you're pushing them in the right direction, or at least giving them the opportunity to experience it.
Yeah. A little bit more about hunting. You mentioned, we mentioned elk during that youth camp. You elk hunt much over there?
I'm a terrible elk hunter, probably one of the worst. I can't even sugarcoat it in any way.
Come on.
I'm awful. No, I hunt elk a little bit. You know, my mule deer takes up the early part of September, and depending on when I get one of those things dead in Wyoming, kind of determines when I'm going to go elk hunting. And my wife loves elk hunting, so she's always chomping at the bit for me to shoot a mule deer so I can get back and she and I can go elk hunting. But gosh, most of the elk I shoot are honestly in early October, and they're usually very small because I'm not picky.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm lousy at calling them. I spot and stock pretty much everything I hunt. So basically that end of the rut when they're kind of just wandering around, I'll just try to sneak and get in front of them and ambush them. And it works every once in a while, but more often than not, I just scare them.
No, it's funny to listen to. If you listen to a mule deer guy talk about elk, if you listen to an elk guy talk about mule deer, it sounds kind of the same. Because I think I've heard somebody ask South one time, you know, about why he likes to hunt mule deer, and it's like, well, I think it's easier. I think they're easier to kill than elk. And then you talk to an elk guy, and they're like, well, you can't call a mule deer to 10 yards, so why would I go hunt those things? You know, that seems a lot more difficult. You know, it's funny, the different viewpoints, because I'm kind of in the mode. I don't know how to call elk to save my life, so mule deer seems a lot more simple to me. It's just find mule deer, go kill mule deer. And elk is a little bit more. Right. Elk is a little bit more intimidating to me.
It is, and I have pretty bad hearing. I'm close to legally deaf in one ear, and I attribute that to, unfortunately, the loud guitars for a lot of years. And I used to shoot a lot of shotgun as well. And of course, you know, only pansies wear hearing protection. And I mean, my wife and I will go elk hunting. If we're down maybe around West Yellowstone where it's steep and nasty, we'll hear a bugle and I'll be like, oh, that was up over there. And she looks at me like I've got, you know, an extra hand growing out of my forehead. She's like, no, that was on that side of the canyon. So I was like, oh, was it now? So it's like, yeah, I think I just want to go look at a mule deer 1,000 yards away, then go sneak up on it instead of walk around on the wrong side of a freaking mountain looking for an elk that I didn't even hear over there. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've got some.
So duly noted, elk is not your thing.
No, don't ask for any tips for elk on me or on anything. We could talk about anything else, I think.
Well, let's get some mule deer tips in. What's kind of your game plan going into a hunt? You know, whether it's glassing setups or how to glass, kind of just dive through that real quick. I know I'd be interested to hear it.
Yeah, you know, mule deer hunting is a healthy dose of patience. I really haven't done that much of the high country stuff in the mountains, so I'm certainly no authority to speak on that. But for all the years I've done the desert country mule deer. For one, the deer, even mule deer, have to drink water, which I'm pretty certain they eat rocks, because a lot of times you can't figure out what the heck they actually are eating. But if you can figure out where some water is, there's probably going to be some deer around. And just being up, mule deer like to feed at night, and catching them early in the morning, going back to wherever they're going to bed. And they usually bed in the nastiest stuff they can find. They like northwest facing slopes and canyons, just because that affords them the most shade throughout the course of a long, hot, windy day. And you just got to place yourself, unfortunately, with the sun coming up in your eyes, which makes it really hard for glassing. But you don't look at sunny hillsides for mule deer. You look at shady hillsides, because mule deers are like vampires. They don't want to be out in the sunshine after it comes up, especially the big ones. They want to tuck down and hide in the shadows. So as long as you place yourself in a place where you know some deer are feeding, you know there's some water in the vicinity, even if that water's a mile away, if you find the broken, rough stuff that faces the right direction, you just sit on your butt and you look and you look and you look some more. And, patience is rewarded usually. If you're looking at the right terrain and the right spots, you find one, you got a chance of killing one, a good chance.
So do you backpack a lot, or are you in the cover as much ground as possible camp? I know for me, I find I struggle with knowing, like, being too patient and sitting in a spot where there's probably not any deer, but I'm looking for that one deer, and finding a good balance between knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them, so to speak. So what, kind of talk about that
exactly.
for a second.
Exactly. It depends on where I'm hunting. I got a few different places I go, and one place I need to look at a lot of country, because the density is super low. And if you look over a canyon and you don't see a darn thing, you don't burn hours looking it over, because there's probably nothing in there. So I'll move quite a bit, and I hunt a mix of public and private. So if I'm on the private stuff and I can just be on my four-wheeler and, like, on the little 2-tracks or something in between, like the water wells, then I can just walk out on ridges and glass canyons. But if I'm hunting the public stuff, then it's just me with a pack on my back and just hiking up on some high ridge and sitting and looking. And it's just an element of luck too. I mean, the deer's got to be at the right spot, and you got to be looking at the right spot when he's there, because they might be there, but unless you catch them in that one minute where they're up and out and dropping into a canyon, you won't see them. So if that kind of answers.
No, it does. Have you ever hunted over water, or kept that tool in your toolbox and had to use it, or is that just something that's not really your style?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I found in my neck of the woods that I'm hunting anyways, and other people have told me different in where they hunt, but the mule deer hit water like at 4:00 in the morning on their way back to wherever they're going to bed. So a lot of times these water tanks in this broken country are more out in the flats, like in where they're going to have some cattle grazing or something. So the deer will hit water way early in the dark and then be working their way back to the Badlands to bed up, and you're not going to see them till, when the sun's coming up. They're already back at the Badlands. So water's kind of just never been on the table for me.
Well, optics. What kind of optics are you running? Do binos on a tripod guy, or do you rely pretty heavily on a spotter, or kind of a mix of both?
I'll do both. I don't do binos on a tripod. I got 10x40 Zeiss that I've had for years that I really like. And then I got why am I blanking it right now? A Vortex, one of their upper end spot and scopes. And I got a nice little tripod, and I'll take the scope when I need, but a lot of these cuts are just tight enough and high enough that I can just sneak over peek my face over the edge and just use my binos to look down into all the cuts. But looking great distances, I'll use the spotter. So it just kind of depends on where I'm hunting. I don't really like to carry the spotter if I don't have to, because it is fairly heavy with the tripod. But it depends.
Well, Rob, you got anything you want to add, or?
No, I just sitting back. I know you get all wigged out on mule deer, and I was like, man, I wanted to talk about elk, but whatever.
Oh, that's funny. Now, do you have any mule deer stories that kind of stick out? You know, I mean, whether it's one that you hunted for a couple years in a row, or one that you got in super tight on, or anything that sticks out?
I hope. Yeah. How long do you guys have? We could get right through Super Bowl here if you want to talk about that.
Come on with it.
Oh gosh, yeah. Like I said, getting close is really cool. So the first year I hunted mule deer was in 2007, and that was a school of hard knocks for me, figuring out what the heck to do with these things, when to sneak up on them, when not to. And I ended up, it was about the third or fourth day I was hunting them. I found this nice buck tucked up at a little hole, and I snuck up, and I didn't realize that there's a difference between where a deer beds right after sunset and will chew his cud for a little bit. I didn't realize that most often they get up after an hour or so and get tucked down a little bit tighter, and that'll be their day bed. I had no idea about that. So I see this deer going bed down, and I loop around this canyon. I got the wind blowing. He's under this scrubby little bush in this cut bank, and I sneak up to where he was, and I'm peeking and peeking and peeking, and I'm like 3 yards from this bush, and there is no deer there. And I was like, son of a gun, I left him here like a half hour ago. Where the heck did he go? And all of a sudden I see a horn tip swing like 5 yards from me. He'd only moved like 6 feet, but he was tucked on the other side of this bank, and that was going to be where he spent his day. And the wind was blowing so hard, he didn't know what I was. I think he saw my bow tip, and he jumped up and took a bound and just turned and looked back, and all of a sudden there was just an arrow on the way. I don't even remember shooting. And I zipped him right through the lungs, and he ran up and he tipped over on this big boulder and just died right against this big boulder, and my mind was blown. And I was like, all right, this is it. This is the hunting I've been looking for my whole life. And so basically every stock, everything I do, I try to replicate that as close as possible. And like I said earlier, I think I've got two or three deer now that have actually been sleeping fast asleep when I've leaned right over the edge. I haven't even been able to get my bow to full draw. Just get about 2/3 of a draw and shoot them at 10 feet where they're sleeping, and that trips my trigger. I feel like I've won the game.
Does any of them compare to your first one? I can only imagine the exhilaration, when it finally comes together and you make that shot. Have they all kind of checked that box, or was that the pinnacle?
No, they've all checked that box, and I think that's why I go back and do it, because it's just that trying to be like a mountain lion. You just picture yourself being like a cat sneaking up, as quiet as you can. Everything that goes into every movement being so perfectly executed that you can't make a sound. And then just seeing those horn tips literally like right at my feet as I'm leaning over these bags.
That's awesome.
These banks. And I had to shoot this one deer a few years ago. I was 2.5 hours at 10 feet from that deer. He stood twice in that time, and I could never get a shot because he would see me if I tried to make it. So I just leaned back, and he was under this steep cut bank. And I could feel like I could take my bow and like just swing it and like bonk him on the horns. But finally, the second time he stood up, he laid down with his body facing the other way. And I had to just hang out, and I knew he was going to take a nap because the sun was high. It was after lunch at this point, and I waited him out, and I just let those horns sink down. And I just peeked over and started my draw, and his eyes were closed and his head was down, and I ended up just shooting him right through the chest, literally at 10 feet at 2/3 draw. I was like shooting carp, and God, it's hard to even put into words. I about got ran over by a big buck here. So the first real big buck I killed, it was the second mule deer I ever killed. He was asleep too, and I shot him at about 4 or 5 yards in this steep little cut bank. And there again, I had his horn tips, and I waited on him for a bit, and he put his head down and was fast asleep. And I leaned over and shot him, and I hit him just a little far back. His sixth sense kicked in, and he was bucking out of his bed right when I let that arrow go. But he had no idea why, and he ended up charging right at me, and I had to jump out of the way because I about got impaled by a 190-inch mule deer that had just been shot too far back. I mean, I thought it was going to be curtains for me right there, so I just bailed out of the way and let him go. But I've had some neat ones.
What you mentioned 190? What is that? Is that your best buck? What kind of scores you got?
Oh, I've killed some good ones. I've killed a couple over 190, a few in the 180s, a few in the 170s. My first buck I killed was like 165. Then that one I was telling you about that I shot under that cornice after waiting him out, he was like a 144-inch deer. He missed Pope by like an inch, but I needed to get something shot because my wife was about to pop out our first kid, and I needed to get my carcass home. So I saw him, put him to bed, and it's like, oh, buddy, I'm sorry, but it's you. You're coming home with me. And I got him and came back pretty much just in time to get things gathered up and head for the hospital.
Nice. Yeah, so are those nets or are those gross scores?
Those are grosses. Most of them, my bigger ones, net in like the upper 170s, because they've all had trash too, and I'm a sucker for trash, man. If I see cheaters, then I don't hunt for scores.
I was gonna say nets are for fish.
Yeah, that's right.
Nets are for fish, man. If I could see junk and garbage, it's on. I'll take a big non-typical any day over a big typical. So yeah, which whatever. I mean, knocks their score down, but I don't care about that.
Oh, my favorite. It's funny. My favorite whitetail that I've ever shot is one giant deduction. I bet he does it. I bet he doesn't net 90 inches, but it grosses like in the 160s, but he's just one giant deduction. And he's my favorite.
I think my father-in-law said that about me when he met me.
You're just a big deduction.
That's just one giant deduction. I like that term.
Oh, that is good. I'm going to use that. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, scores are good, and it's fun to reference, a critter. I mean, it gives you an idea what you're looking at. And I'm a regular member of Pope and Young and all that, and I appreciate it. And it's fun when you shoot an animal that, scores good, but it's darn sure not the reason I'm out there in the woods,
No, it absolutely,
100%.
Yeah, it absolutely gives you something to, I mean, hey, I shot a 5-point whitetail. Well, 5-point, like, it gives you some kind of reference. No, it's nothing wrong with it.
If for nothing else, and when we're sitting here and BSing, because I don't know a lot of, I mean, and a 190, that's an internet 210, 215, easy. You take the right picture.
Oh gosh, yes,
people realize how big a 190 or a 190 mule deer is until you hold one in your hands. It's
until you're holding one, or you got one right under your feet that you're trying to kill, and you're literally peeing down your leg, like I kind of do. But no, and I appreciate, the nets and the grosses too. I mean, the net, obviously for deductions and all that, and symmetry, what the system is on. But a gross score tells you what kind of deer you're looking at. Like if you told me about your giant deduction deer that it was a 90-inch deer, you're like, oh, cool, you shot a 90-inch deer. But if you say, yeah, it's like a 160 gross deer, it's like, oh, okay, I know what that looks like. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, no, it's
even if he is a mess.
Yeah, he is a mess. There's no doubt. I certainly don't hunt for score. There's certain things that trip my trigger, mass and brow tines, and I'm not thinking about what they score when I'm shooting them. But whenever I'm telling somebody the story, that's the main thing. Like it gives somebody something to picture in their head at the very least. But no, that's awesome stories, man.
Hey, I got a quick question, Brian. You get that close to deer, especially those caliber deer. Are you in stocking feet, and what kind of clothes are you wearing? Because, you know, even your quietest clothing is going to be like rubbing at 10 feet. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's where you need the high winds. I don't care if you're naked. If it's not a windy day, you're not going to get that close to the deer. But yeah, that was kind of the school of hard knocks, figuring that out over the years. I got, I don't want to say they're like skinny pants, but they kind of look like freaking skinny pants.
Well, you're in Bozeman,
I'm like,
so.
Yeah, I'd fit right in. I just need to like get some purple hair or something and, you know, pierce my face up. No, I'm a tall guy, so I'm just shy of 6'4", and like the 200-pound model. So I'm kind of big, rangy dude. And I used to have just some pants that get a little bit looser, and it was just a bugger. And I understand now why South like takes his pants off and does the naked mule deer hunting that he does. But I got these Sitka pants that they kind of fit like skinny jeans, so which is nice, right down around the boots. And I don't do stocking feet because I've actually lost my boots before in the prairie.
Oh no!
And it's taken me so long to find them that my feet have been swollen and bloody, and I've been freaking incapacitated. So I learned real quick that isn't the best idea.
It's funny, you talk to just about any mule deer hunter, and they've all got a story about losing their boots.
Oh, crap. I don't like setting anything down. I only do a fanny pack usually when I'm stalking, because when I have to take my backpack off and then set it down, and then all of a sudden something happens and pretty soon you're a mile away from your pack and got to go get it again. I just like my stuff to be on me if possible. But yeah, so I got those they quit making them too, and this is what irritates me. They're called safari sneakers, and I think Crooked Horn was making them, and Sportsman's Warehouse was selling them, and I bought a handful of pair, and I've worn out all my pairs. I'm on my last one right now, but those things were the bomb, where you could just put them over your boot, and it totally quieted you down. And I just keep them wrapped up in a little bungee cord, and I keep them outside of my pack strapped on the side, because they get so full of freaking cactus needles and stuff. You don't put them inside your pack, or else everything you own ends up with cactus needles in it. But yeah, that's my deal right there. Those tight fitting pants and sneaker booties are where it's at.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I may get some of those, like, and I don't know if you've seen them, Rob, the ones that Wesley Warner made for Aaron. I may get a set of those and see if I can't con my way into getting him to make me a pair of them.
Were those?
That's really I see, because I like stocking. I usually wear merino, like a lightweight merino long john or whatever you want to call it, and that's usually what I go down to if I can. But I need to figure out something for my feet.
Were those things that Wesley made, were they to go over?
No, I think they just go.
I
think they just, you take your boots off and put them on, and that's you know, it would be nice. I've used those Sneak Techs. It's like they go over your boots, but it still, to me, doesn't seem quite as, you can't be quite as precise with where you're putting your feet, because they're so, I mean, it looks like you're wearing clown shoes. I don't know. I'm going to have to look up what you're talking about, Brian, but you said they quit making them. So
yeah. Oh, here's a funny story about them. So the year I got those things, I saw them and I was like, oh, this looks like the ticket. And this again was like 2008, 2009, something like that. I'd hunted deer a couple times without them, and I heard about them. So I got some, and I go down and I found a heck of a buck, and I snuck up on him. And I didn't realize that those things, like you said, clown shoes, they don't got any traction on the bottom. And I didn't put it together very well in my head that if I pointed my feet straight downhill, that I was going to be in bad shape. So I tried to readjust myself sitting over the top of this big deer, and I was maybe 15 yards from him. He was kind of behind this little cedar tree bush bedded down. And I just tried to shift my weight a little bit because I was starting to get crampy. And I got my feet just pointed downhill a little bit, and my feet went out from under me like I just freaking greased the bottom of these things. And I fell down, my bow went flying, that deer went running. It's like, oh, God, note to self, never point your feet downhill. You got to sidestep everything when you're wearing them things. But, yeah, learning curve.
Too bad there's not a one-size-fits-all for everything. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, if you're doing high country and you're in the if you're doing like high country and you're in the rocks, I mean, taking your boots off is another thing. But the cactus and stuff that I'm in out there in that desert, there's no way in heck I could get my boots off and walk around in like a thick pair of socks without suffering.
Yeah, that's no different than that audit hunt. There's a couple times that I wanted to drop my boots so bad I couldn't stand it, but I was like, man, I know as soon as I do, I'm going to run something right through the bottom of my foot, and I'm going to really be regretting that decision. So I just had to take extra time. And we talk about getting that close, and you talk about getting that close, and what's fun for me on the stalk is it's just like every footfall has to be so pinpointed as to like which rocks you're going to step on, or which, that's part of the fun for me is just so much as taking a step. You have to be so critical about where you're fixing to put your feet and how you're going to distribute your weight. And it's just, it's a lot of fun, just the mental game of getting, and I've never got that close to one. Mine that I've shot have been, over 25 yards, but, even hunting these pigs and stuff down here, and it's the fun in the stalk is just how methodical you have to be of where you're putting your feet and where you're going to distribute your weight, and pre-thinking out, 3 or 4 steps ahead of where you're at.
Yep. That's exactly it. 100%.
Rob, you got anything else you want to add?
Not to mule deer, that's for sure.
You guys, I gotta say, that audit hunt you guys just went on, that kind of country, that had me all wound up. That looked like my kind of stuff. They're sneaking around that nasty stuff. That had to have been a hoot, huh?
That was so foreign to me. I absolutely had a blast. And you're talking about being quiet, what northern Idaho, northwest Montana is like. For me, being in that country was like a vacation. You didn't trip on anything. You didn't slip on anything. When you put a boot down, it stayed there. We went up and down through cliffs that I would have never attempted around here. I was so intrigued. Again, it was like a vacation as far as being quiet. I'm like, hell, this is easy to be quiet.
Uh-huh. No, that's some nasty country you live in up there. And as far as the wetness and those rocks and stuff, yeah. I've never hunted up in northwest Montana, but I've been up there enough and just hiking around, farting around. You got it. It's a trip up there.
Yeah. So that hunt down there was an absolute kick in the pants. That's some of Blake's country though, so he was used to it.
No, not
just riding home.
Exactly. I mean, it was still, you talk about how big Texas is. It was new to me. I guess it would be similar to Arizona where I've hunted before, but it's pretty wild, the change in topography and the change in landscape just from where I'm at out there. It was a ton of fun though, man. You couldn't ask for anything more. I think we all had a heck of a time.
Well, Brian, I couldn't believe I was going to Texas and staying at 4,000 feet where that camp was. I was blown away.
I was shocked when I heard you say that too on your podcast that you were there at 4. I was like, no shit. I thought Texas was like 4 feet or something.
I know.
It is where I'm at. Yeah.
That looks like snake country too.
Oh, buddy.
It did. And that's one thing I asked Scotty actually before we went out there. I was like, man, how are the rattlesnakes out there? Because I've got snakes here and stuff. And, around here, the rattlesnakes really like the rocky areas. And the whole place out there is one big freaking rock. So
that's what I thought.
Worried about the snakes a little bit. He said, "Oh, they won't be out this time of year. We'll be fine." It's like, okay,
good,
yeah.
Good.
Everything stabbing you and sticking you was a little new, and I'll tell you, and maybe you see it where you go in Wyoming, but man, it looked like my boots were a year older when I got back. Just after 4 days of those rocks cutting them and everything just biting at them and sticking them.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, heck, I can hunt elk for a week around here and my boots still look like they're pretty much brand new, just walking around in the forest and stuff, even if I'm in kind of steep stuff. But yeah, everything. And Wyoming, that desert, I mean, it just scrapes the leather right off, and you go through a pair of boots pretty quick.
No,
Well,
if you
I
can,
think
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think Aaron said it best. It's like lava rock. It's like everything's got grip tape on it, and there's a couple times that I got into some situations that I probably shouldn't have put myself in because, well, we were talking about it the other day, Rob. Just you get false confidence in that terrain because of how easily your boots stick to stuff, and on the flip side of that, it is really rough on your boots. But it was cool. I mean, there was places that we dropped down out of those cliffs that I wouldn't think a million years that I would ever try, and because your boots stick so well.
Oh, I'll guarantee you, man.
Confident.
I'm chicken. When you get into cliffs, I'm straight up freaking chicken. I went up and down some stuff that I've kind of felt like a hero.
You need that every once in a while.
We all need that every once in a while. Bow hunting usually is just an ass kicking and punishment. It's nice to feel like you're just conquered something.
No, it was a fun hunt, Brian. If you could ever make it down there, it sounds like you would love it.
That's what I was thinking. That sounds like my cup of tea. So someday, all these fun things that I need to do.
Yeah. You got anything planned for this year?
Apparently I'm going to Kodiak Island as of a few hours ago, which wasn't necessarily, at the front of my to-do list, but a friend of mine invited me here a while ago, and looks like Canada for bear is out this spring. So it's like, you know what? Why not? And it's in late October. So I'm going to go try to do a little spot and stock action on those goofy little deer up there and see what happens.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We talked to David Hoff not long ago. He went up there and they all got some Sitka blacktails. It looks like a really, really fun hunt.
It does. I thought if I ever did it, I'd do like the August hunt where they're up in the higher mountains and you're sneaking up on them more like I know how. But being that this is kind of pre-rut and apparently they're down more around the coast or something, I decided, what the heck, let's do it. So that'll definitely be a new thing for me. But I guess that's what's on the ticket for the year. Yeah,
those deer are so unique, man. They're I don't use the word often, but those things are beautiful. They're just different and very unique, cool critters.
Yeah, they are, and like I said, it's never been like on the top of the list of something I wanted to do, but I mean, I think to go do it once, it'd be pretty cool. So the opportunity's here, so I'm going to do that. I was thinking about a DIY moose in Alaska. That was kind of what I was planning on, but I got some connections and some friends and all that up there, so I can do that on another year. So that's the plan.
You want to be my friend?
Please be his friend.
I'm a crappy friend, I think. I mean, do you want to be my friend? That's probably the bigger question. I don't know. I'm lousy at hunting elk.
That's funny.
Oh, no.
No, that sounds like it'll be a hoot for me with the blacktail thing. I'd like to get up there and do it at some point. It's more about where they live than what they are.
And that's kind of it.
I'd love to go to Kodiak.
Bears, all the fun stuff. Hell, in Southwest Montana, I got grizzly bears all over the place down here. I've had plenty of tangles with them, so it's just going to be their bigger cousin. So that's not like an enormous concern for me, but it'll just be fun to see some new terrain and some new stuff. So
David Hoff was super funny when he talks about seeing his first bear up there, and I think he was stringing out their little electric fence, and he's looking. What did he say? It was like a Volkswagen up there with teeth and claws, and like this thing with 4D batteries is supposed to stop him. It was pretty funny.
Oh yeah,
really
yeah.
I'd be in the same damn boat.
I listened to that.
He's a good dude.
The first time I did Alaska years ago, criminally, like 2004 or something like that, I went up out of Unalakleet and was in kind of that nasty open tundra stuff, and those alder thickets along those creeks up there, you'll just be out in these rolling hills of absolutely nothing, and then all of a sudden a bear the size of a freaking Volkswagen will walk out of this patch of alders, feed for a minute, then turn around and go right back in. And you don't know they're there. And I was like, ooh, I don't think I like this. I'd walk like a half a mile out of my way to go through a 30-yard gap in those alders just so I didn't have to go into those things to get to the other side. So I was like, this is insane when something that big can hide like that.
That's funny.
And those alders, they're a lot like willows. They're just taller, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're horrible, horrible things. Yeah. I mean, the only way to get through them is to basically get in the bear tunnel trails.
Yeah. And then you got the Devil's Club the whole way, smacking you in the face. And that's awesome.
Yeah. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I don't know why we do this to ourselves. But
and then it's usually raining. You got to add that to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's basically every level of misery you can throw at yourself. And it's like, oh, hell yeah, that's what I'm going to go spend a bunch of time and money on. I need this.
The first year I was up there, my buddy had my buddy was hunting brown bear and another buddy was guiding him, and I was videotaping. The day we kill his brown bear, we get in a jet boat. We jet down the river a ways. We get out. We put waders on because we got to wade through kind of a marshy area swamp. We take the waders off, and then we hike up, I don't know, several hundred feet, 1,000 feet or something, and we got to put snowshoes on. So we ended up killing this bear, but it was like every mode of transportation possible.
Oh, that's brutal.
Oh, it was fun. Yeah,
brutal.
It was awesome, man. It was awesome.
It is awesome, like being from Montana here in the prairies and the mountains. I mean, when you talk distance, I mean, you say a couple miles around here and it's like, well, geez, that's like a 15-minute, good little power hike to get over there. You don't do that in Alaska and that tundra and all that stuff. I mean, that is the most brutal walking a guy can do. Yeah. Like you said, through about every condition too. That's tough stuff.
Yeah. Yep. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, well, it seems like everybody is wanting to do it now. It's a whole different game than it was some years ago.
I know. That's a whole nother podcast. Yep. Well, you got anything else you want to add?
You talking to me or Blake?
Both of you.
No, I'm good. Brian, do you have anything else?
I'm on you guys' show. Whatever your schedule is here, I'm just hanging out. I'm about done with my coffee, so it's time to crack this beer here next to me in my truck. It's 3 degrees and snowing on me. I've already plowed a foot of snow today. I got no schedule, so whatever you guys want.
You say it's 3 degrees. That's pretty cold for snow.
Yeah, it's just that dry, fluffy stuff coming down. At least the plowing was easy today. It was just fluffing all around me, but. Yeah, winter finally showed up as of last night here. Yeah,
we haven't had jack for winter over here, but we got a little snow, and it's supposed to get into single digits here for a while. So I dig that. I mean, I would feel cheated if I go through winter and I don't see zero at some point.
Yeah, that is for sure. The older I get, though, that novelty's starting to wear off, especially when I'm trying to heat up a rock and stick it into a wall when it's that cold. It kind of question my life choices here a little bit.
I've heard they have masons in Mexico. You should go down there and lay tile or something in the winter time.
Do you think they're going to hire a 6'4" freaking white guy down there when they have all the labor? No,
they would. There's some comedic value. They would be like, "Hey, look at the big white gringo."
Oh, I'd just get my butt handed to me down there. No, I'll just stay up here and just be cold.
Yeah, I get pretty lucky here. Now, I will say that 20 or 25 here feels like probably 5 or 10 up there just because of the wetness, the humidity and stuff. But I don't have to deal with I've never plowed an inch of snow in my life, so or shoveled it for that matter.
Gotcha. Funny. Yeah, the humidity is brutal down your neck of the woods. And gosh, when I've hunted like the Midwest or back in Ohio and stuff, and you see this weather is going to be, 25 degrees, you're like, oh, geez, that's like a long sleeve shirt, for us. No, you'll pretty well freeze to death out there in that at 94% humidity.
Well, Brian, thanks for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. This has been fun. It was kind of weird. I mean, I've listened to so many of your episodes and talking with you guys for a minute. It's like, all right, I'm not just listening to an episode. I'm actually participating. Don't just say something.
I'm sorry.
Well, we'll have to get you back on again and catch back up. Maybe after you go kill you a big old mule deer in Wyoming, we'll get you back on and talk about it.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. I appreciated it. Thank you guys for having me.
Right on, Brian. And again, my hat's off to you donating your time with the MBA. And I know that can be thankless, and it's not the fun part of being a bow hunter, but guys got to do it, and we appreciate what you do.
Oh, well, thank you for that, too. It's nice to hear a thank you every once in a while, because usually it's just the opposite.
All right, man.
Yeah, thanks for everything, Brian.
Okay, you guys have a good one. Thank you.
Catch you later.
Okay, later.
You can do it.